प्रातस्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित् सुखं परमहं सगतिं तुरीयम् यत् स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तिमवैति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति। Hari Om. Welcome back to Gems of Bhagavad Gita. We will continue with our discussion, and now we have reached chapter 18. We have reached the ultimate, the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So first of all, congratulations. Congratulations. We are almost at the completion of our journey studying the gems of Bhagavad Gita. This chapter is a great summary of whatever has been discussed, a great summary of bringing it all together. We have discussed various thoughts and ideas, various concepts. We have discussed over 200 verses trying to take out the gems from the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. And all of that is going to become condensed and explained very straightforwardly, I would say. So chapter 18 is a great summary, helping you pick out the essential ideas for your spiritual growth. As I said, the first half of this chapter starts with, or continues rather, to discuss about the three types, the sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic ways of functioning, which is very helpful, which helps us understand and measure ourselves. To what extent is the kind of action we are performing sattvic? To what extent is it rajasic? To what extent is it tamasic? And in line with the nature of this chapter being a summary, it starts with Arjuna's question, which is a very pertinent question, because this is the whole confusion that he is having. Why are we even discussing the Bhagavad Gita? Because Arjuna is in the middle of the battlefield and he is relinquishing his action. He doesn't want to, he's giving up an activity. And he's thinking, oh, that is Tyaga, that is Sannyas. He thinks that is a great action. That is Tyaga. And so Bhagwan's response, finally, Arjuna is asking the right question. If you ask me, Arjuna should have asked this question in chapter 1 itself. Instead of going on that long sermon, this and that, he should have asked this question then itself. Why? Because he was having that Tyag Bhav, the incorrect Tyag Bhav. So you should have asked, Bhagwan, please tell me clearly, what is true Tyaga? What is true Sannyas? You should have asked this question in the first go itself. But better late than never. Better late than never. He asks it in chapter 18. What is the distinction between sannyas and tyag? Help me understand clearly. Help me understand clearly. Remove my delusion, because with this removal, I will be able to perform the right kind of activity in life. I'll be able to conduct myself in the right way. So that was Arjuna's question, which we touched upon yesterday, the first verse of chapter 18, which is Sannyasa and Tyaga. Oh, tell me the difference. I wish to know distinctly, oh Mahabaho, the distinction, the difference between Sannyasa and Tyaga. First of all, is there a difference? How many of us knew that there's actually a difference between the two? We use these words interchangeably, but they are different things. Well, not entirely different. Tyag is the cause, sannyas is the effect. Tyag is a technique of action. Sannyas is a state of being. I repeat, Tyag is a technique of action. Sannyas is a state of being. You can't practice sannyas. You can't practice being a sannyasi. You can practice Tyaga. So sannyas is a state of being, whereas Tyag is a technique of activity, a technique of spiritual practice. And Tyaga is that cause, is that technique which you put in, which you practice, which will result in the effect of sannyas. I'm giving you the answer before Bhagavan gives it. It's almost like cheating. I'm giving you the answer. Arjuna asked, what's the difference between sannyas and Tyaga? So very important difference to understand. You can't practice being a sannyasi. You can't practice being a renunciate. You can't practice giving up things. It doesn't work that way. You can't practice being detached from things. You can't practice not being angry at something you're being angry about. That state of sannyas is something you reach as a result of right action, action performed in the spirit of Tyaga. See, Tyaga is right action. This technique of action, the technique of Tyaga is right action. Performing actions in the spirit of Tyaga is the same thing. We're not going to discuss anything new. It's just a new word that is being introduced. He's just clarifying. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha. That is Tyag. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha. One who gives up the desire for the result and the attachment to the activity and performs his karyam karma, his obligatory duty, his roles and responsibilities to the best of his ability. One who gives up the craving for the result and the attachment to the activity and performs the karyam karma, action, his obligatory action to the best of his ability. That is Tyag. And that results in making one a sannyasi. Sas sannyasi cha yogi cha. That kind of activity performed over a period of time, sustained, will turn you into a sannyasi. So it's nothing new we're going to discuss, but just a very important clarification, which is why I said it's a summary. It's a summary. So we'll first of all understand the difference. We'll elaborate on the difference between sannyas and tyag in verse number 2. We'll chant it together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarva Karma Phalatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarva Karma Phalatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. श्री भगवान बोले, कवि तो काम्य कर्मों को के त्याग को संन्यास मानते हैं और विचारशील मनुष्य सब कर्मों के फल को त्याग कहते हैं. Shri Bhagavan said, sages understand sannyas to be the renunciation of desire-ridden action, kamya karma. The renunciation of desire-ridden action, kamya karma को त्यागना कवि मुनि sannyas मानते हैं. So he's defining sannyas. See, it gets a little confusing because he's using the word tyag, at least Hindi anuvad mein. But perhaps in the English translation, it's a little easier to understand because he's using the word renunciation and relinquishment. He's making that distinction. So sages understand sannyas to be renunciation of desire-ridden action, kamya karma. Kamya karma, renunciation of kamya karma is sannyas. The relinquishment of the fruit of all action, सब कर्मों के फल को त्यागना, The wise declare, Manishinaha. The wise declare as Tyaga. Vichakshanaha. Vichakshanaha, Vicharshil Vyakti. The wise declare the relinquishment of fruit of all action as Tyaga. So sages understand sannyas to be the renunciation of desire-ridden action, giving up of desire-ridden action, stopping desire-ridden activity. Is that sannyas? Hari Om, sorry, I think आज गुड़गांव में electricity काफी जा रही है. So every time the electricity goes, the Wi-Fi turns off, and when the Wi-Fi turns off, Satyanash, I get logged off. So let us renounce the fruit of this action and simply do this action to the best of our abilities. Let us not think about what will happen to the internet and all those things, and let us simply try to conduct this class to the best of our abilities, because we can't control that result, right? That is Tyaga. So in the spirit of Tyaga, let us continue our discussion on verse number 2. So sages understand sannyas to be renunciation of desire-ridden action. It is impossible. If you have a desire for something, it is impossible to give it up. You can't give up anything in life. Please understand this. I'm only trying to explain that sannyas cannot be practiced. Sannyas cannot be practiced. If you have a desire for something, you cannot give it up. If you simply ignore what you desire, you will be suppressed. You have to address your desire. You have to address your desire. How? A, with regulation and moderation. You have to regulate and moderate your desire with your buddhi. B, with the spirit of Tyaga. Whatever you desire, perform the action to achieve it, but giving up the desire to achieve it, giving up the desire for the result. That attitude, whatever your desires are. For example, if you want a job, if you want wealth, if you want success, develop the attitude of deserving, not desiring. Means what? You pursue that desire, no doubt, but focus on the action needed to perform, action needed to achieve it. Focus on the action needed to achieve it rather than the result. Oh, am I getting closer to my result? Oh, when will I achieve my result? Oh, will I be successful in achieving my result? Eliminating those thoughts and focusing on what needs to be done. And third thing is knowledge. Understanding the value, the purpose of life. So these three things you have to do. You cannot simply give up desire. You cannot simply stop what you desire. All of us today are a bundle of desires. We are a bundle of desires. So we have to deal with it. And these are the spiritual practices with which we have to pursue our lives, pursue our desires. A, regulate and moderate. We can't simply indulge in our desires. B, perform action in the spirit of Tyaga, giving up the craving for the result, focusing on the action itself. And C, knowledge, jnanam, which gives us a new direction, jnanam, which gives us a deeper understanding of the purpose of life. All these three performed together over a period of time will transform you. All these three performed over a period of time will transform you as an individual, will transform your desires. Slowly will lead to the reduction of your desires. And that's when you will achieve the state of sannyas. See, think about it this way. Think about it this way. When you were a child, suppose I tell a child, stop playing with your toys. Suppose I tell a child, stop playing with your toys. What will happen? It'll be suppressed, it'll be repressed, it'll start crying, it'll start throwing a tantrum. Why? Because it has a desire to play with toys. It cannot simply relinquish the desire-ridden activity of playing with toys. But over a period of time, first of all, the child has to be regulated and moderated in playing with toys. You as a parent need to regulate and moderate that. Little bit of study, little bit of play. It can't only play, right? It can't only play. Parents would know this better than me. I'm not a parent yet. And secondly, over a period of time, as it gains knowledge, as it gains a deeper understanding of life, it grows up. It develops a deeper understanding. It develops a greater purpose for life. A child, a baby grows into maybe a young adult who develops an aspiration to study, to do things, to develop a career. What happens then? It automatically gives up the desire for the toys. It doesn't continue to play with those toys and trinkets. When you were 8 or 10 years old, when you were 10 or 12 years old, what was the most important thing in life? After school, playing that game of cricket. Make sure everybody's there for that game of cricket. Now, do you even think about the game of cricket? How important is that activity? So as you grow in life, as you rise in life, as you give yourself a higher direction, automatically the lower desires fall away. You gain sannyas. It's a state. So when you grow up to a young adult, you have gained sannyas from the world of toys. It's a relative sannyas. When you grow to a young adult, you have gained sannyas from the realm, from the world of toys. So sannyas is a growth. It is an effect. But how to reach that stage? How to reach that stage? That is the question. So sannyas is the relinquishment of desire-ridden action. It is an effect. It is a result of spiritual practice. And what is that spiritual practice? One of the most essential spiritual practices is Tyaga, which he defines out here. The relinquishment of fruit of all action, whatever action you're performing in your life, whatever activities you're performing in your life, perform it with the attitude of Tyaga. Yes, it is the very desire. See, please remember, no action is possible without desire. If you remember the chronology of action, we have discussed it in the past, the chronology of action. How are you ending up doing what you're doing? How am I ending up doing what I'm doing right now? I have a desire to teach. Well, first of all, I have a vasana to teach. I have a vasana for Vedanta. That vasana for Vedanta springs in me the thought to learn and then perhaps share this knowledge. That grows into a desire to teach this knowledge. That results in me taking this class in the morning. This very action I am performing in because I have a desire to teach. It's a fact. I'm admitting. No action is possible without a desire preceding it. And from the chronology of action, we understand vasana grows to thought, thought grows to desire, desire grows to action. Let me see if I can pull up that chart very quickly. It'll help you understand. It'll help you understand better. It's the first verse it's the first slide in the PowerPoint presentation. The chronology of action. You have vasanas, your predominant nature, your inherent nature, the texture, the seeds within you, the seeds of your personality. They lead to thoughts in your mind, thoughts in your intellect. What kinds of thoughts you have? It depends on what vasanas you have. Two people experiencing the same thing have very different thoughts about it. Two people in the same room, two people in the same place have very different thoughts. When you go to London, you want to shop, and your husband wants to go to the museum. Very different thoughts in the same place. When I was a child, I still remember, when we used to travel, and I would want to go to the theme parks, and my family only wanted to shop, 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 shop. I'm not complaining. Please don't tell my family this. So I would want to go to Disneyland and some theme parks, roller coaster. So I still remember this one time when I was, I think, 9 or 10 years old, and we went on a holiday, and it was a big moment because my mother told me, "Listen, I'm giving you the responsibility. Go enjoy your day in the theme park all by yourself." So I went to the theme park. I enjoyed my long day, and my family went shopping, and we met in the evening. It was the first time I spent whole day, traveled by myself, enjoyed my day, came back by myself. It was a growing up moment. So what kind of thoughts you have in the same place, in the same city? Some people have thoughts for theme parks, some people have thoughts for shopping. Depends on your vastness. And those thoughts give rise to desires. Desires are nothing but a bundle of thoughts, a stream of thoughts, a thick stream. Thoughts are like trickles, drops. Desires are like a stream. Drops will lead to a stream. If there are sufficient number of drops, it will lead to a stream. If there are sufficient number of thoughts, it will lead to a desire. And that desire will prompt you, will drive you to perform the action. So what kind of actions you're performing are based on your desires. It's as simple as that. Now, you can't give up those actions. You can't simply stop performing those actions. It's not possible. It's not right also. It's not right. It's not spiritual to give up activity. It's the biggest misunderstanding of spirituality. So what is true spirituality? Very interesting. He says, relinquishment of the fruit of the activity. Giving up that craving for the result. Yes, there is a desire. There is a desire in me to teach right now, which is why we are conducting this class. But I ought to execute this activity in the spirit of Tyaga, which means what? I have to give up my desire for the result. I could have several desires. My desires, the results I desire could be A, that I teach this well, that you think I'm a good teacher. B, a more unselfish desires. I hope you learn. I hope people are benefited by this knowledge. Now, I can't control if you're benefited by this or not. I can't control if you're benefited. If teachers started worrying about whether their teachings are actually benefiting people or actually people are transforming with it, then half of them will grow depressed. The rare person is transformed because it depends on their own effort. But anyway, point is, I need to have that attitude that I need to do my best, what is in my hands. That is the attitude I need to have. Give up the craving for the result. Let me do the action to the best of my abilities. That action, well executed, will lead to the right result. That's the spirit of Tyaga. That's the spirit of Tyaga. So performing whatever action you're performing, giving up that craving for the result, giving up that attachment to the activity is Tyaga. It's a deep thought. It's a deep concept. Very important to understand because that's the essence of spirituality. That's the essence of whatever we've been discussing. So the relinquishment of the fruit of all action, the wise people declare as Tyaga. And he gives a very important clarification. He's saying some actions should not be relinquished. Some actions should not be relinquished at all. Even if you are the greatest of all sannyasis, there are some activities, no matter how big you get, how much you evolve, you shouldn't give up some activities. Yajna, dana, tapa. Remember, chapter 17, we discussed Yajna, dan, tapa. These should never be relinquished. Bhagavan says in verse number 5. Yajna, dana, tapa, karma. Natyajam karyamevatat. Yajno danam tapaschaiva. pavanani manishinam yajna tapah karma natyajam karyameva tat yajno danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. भगवान कहते हैं यज्ञ दान तप कर्म त्यागने के योग्य नहीं है, उनको करना ही कर्तव्य है, क्योंकि यज्ञ दान तप ही बुद्धिमानों को पवित्र करने वाले हैं. The act of sacrifice, gift and austerity should not be relinquished. त्यागने योग्य नहीं है. That indeed should be performed. ये कर्तव्य कर्म है, should be performed, because sacrifice, gift and austerity, yajna, dana, tapa, are indeed the purifiers of the wise. Pavanani manishinam. Manishinam means the wise people, the philosophers, the people on the spiritual path. How are they purified? By the acts of sacrifice, gift and austerity. So he says, no matter how big a sannyasi you become, there are some activities, there are some actions you should not relinquish. There are some activities you should not stop. Because it is yajna, the spirit of service and sacrifice, dana, gift, giving, and tapaha, austerity. We discussed these, the sattvic yajna, sattvic dana, sattvic tapa. We discussed in in chapter number 17. These are activities you should never give up, because it is these activities that will end up purifying the wise, that will help you reduce your desires. What is purification of the wise? What is purification of any individual? Desires in us are an impurity. Very, very important to understand this. Desires in us are an impurity from the vantage point of the spiritually evolved person. See, on the one hand, I'm saying you cannot give up desire. On the other hand, it's very important to understand from a philosophical point of view that it is desires that are the impurity. Desires are the barrier between man and God. Desires are the barrier between man and God. Your desires stand in the way between you and your ultimate destination of spiritual enlightenment, no matter how good the desire is. No matter how good the desire is, no matter how noble the desire is, ultimately it is that desire which is standing between you and spiritual realization, self-realization. So slowly eradicating desires. How do you eradicate desires? We've discussed this. You take up a higher desire, the lower desire falls off. You take up a nobler desire, the lower desire falls off. And you take up the highest desire for self-realization, all desires fall off. That's the ladder of desire you have to climb. That's the ladder of desire you have to climb. But at all times, you must understand, it is desire that is in the way. It is that barrier. So elimination of desire is purification of the individual. Ultimately, desires are born out of ignorance. What is a desire? You feel a void within you. You feel a void within you. You feel a shortcoming. You feel something missing within you. And you pitch a desire, a stream of thoughts to the world to try to fill that void. आपको भूख लग रही है. What happens? You feel that bhook inside, and immediately a stream of thoughts start flowing from you to the world in search for food to fill it. You try to search for food to eat so that you can fill your stomach. That's desire. You have something missing within you. You have some feeling you aren't 100% happy, and you think that I can fetch something from the world, whether it's an emotional experience or a physical contact or a material object, whatever it is. You think I can acquire that, I can get that, and I can fill this gap, fill this hole within me, fill this void within me. The ultimate message of Vedanta is that you are paripurna. You are all full. There is no void within you. It's an imaginary void. That's the highest knowledge we have to gain. All desires in you are springing out of an imaginary ignorance. So all desires, good or bad, are ultimately the barrier between you and that realization. That's something we have to keep at the back of our mind. So the elimination, the reduction of desires is a purification of the wise. And Yajna, Dana, Tapa, Bhagavan says, are the purifiers. So they shouldn't be given up. See, in effect, don't try to be a sannyasi. Don't try to be a sannyasi. You can't practice sannyas. What you should try to be is a tyagi. Don't try to be a sannyasi. Try to be a tyagi. Automatically, you'll become a sannyasi. Tyag is something that can be practiced. Sannyas will be the result. And in this pursuit, never give up yajna, dana, tapa. They should be your markers. They should be your guide. Always perform actions in the spirit of service and sacrifice. Always maintain the charitable disposition and maintain that discipline, that regulation and moderation in life. These actions should not be given up. And he says, you must perform yajna, dana, tapa, but in the spirit of Tyaga. Right? So that's verse number 6. These actions should be performed, but in the spirit of Tyaga. Verse number 6. We'll quickly chant it. Etan tu karmani sangam tyaktva phalani cha kartavyani me partha nishchitam matamuttamam. Etan tu karmani sangam tyaktva phalani cha kartavyani me partha nishchitam matamuttamam. हे पार्थ, यह तथा और भी कर्म आसक्ति और फलों को त्याग कर करने चाहिए, ऐसा मेरा निश्चित और उत्तम मत है. But even these actions should be performed relinquishing attachment and the fruit. This is my firm and highest conviction. What more guarantee do you need? See, I was saying it till now. I was saying it. The Tyag is the cause, sannyas is the effect. But here Bhagwan himself is saying it. Bhagwan himself is saying it. This is my firm and highest conviction. If you want to evolve in life, if you want to lead to purification, perform all actions, including yajna, dana, tapa, relinquishing attachment and fruit, relinquishing the kartritva bhavana and the bhoktritva bhavana. Relinquishment of kartritva and bhoktritva is Tyaga. Perform all actions in the spirit of Tyaga. That will lead to your purification. That will lead to your growth. That will lead to your state of being a sannyasi. That is my firm and highest conviction. What more of a guarantee do you need? Bhagavan himself is saying, this is my strongest opinion. My strongest opinion. See, very interesting word. He's used the word mata. Mata means an opinion. There are two kinds of knowledge, dharma and mata. Dharma is an infallible truth. Dharma is something which almost can be proved experimentally. Dharma is a fact. Delhi is a city in India. It's a fact. It's a dharma. Delhi is a good city. It can't be proved. It's an opinion. A lot of people may have that opinion. Delhi is the capital of India. It's a fact. Delhi is a city in India. It's a fact. It's a dharma. Delhi is a good city. It's a mata. Unfulfilled desires lead to agitation. It's a dharma. It's a fact. It can be proved. So here he's saying, this is a mata, this is my opinion. See, there are various schools of thought, there are various philosophies. In fact, in these verses that we've skipped, the reason he's saying this is because some people believe all action should be given up. Some people believe that sannyas means stopping all activity, stopping all contact with the world. But here Bhagwan is giving his philosophy. He's saying, other people have this opinion, but it is my conviction, it is my belief and my firm conviction, not a casual conviction. It is my firm conviction that the way to spiritual progress, the way to evolution, is to not isolate yourself, is to not give up activities, to not go away from the world. No, perform whatever activity you ought to do in the world, fulfill your roles and responsibilities, perform your kartavya karma in the spirit of Tyaga, without kartritva bhavana and without bhoktritva bhavana. This is my firm and highest conviction. So that's the highest mata of Bhagwan. Now it's up to you and me. It's up to you and me to follow it or not. See, there are some things, there are some matas. It's almost, crossing the bridge when you come to it. There's a saying in English, we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. We'll think about it when we come to that level. For example, in Vedanta also, there are three matas. There is three schools of thought. There is Advaita, there is Vishishta Advaita, and there is Dvaita. There is the monoism, there is the qualified dualism or qualified monoism, and there's the dualism. One, Advaita believes that Tattvamasi, you are God. Vishishta Advaita believes you are a part of God. Dvaita believes you are separate and distinct from God. I'm not going to go into details about it, but these are matas. These are matas. These are different schools of thought that have arisen over a period of time through different teachers for different students. Now, which should I believe? A lot of people have the question, Acha, which philosophy do you believe in? It's not about believing in a certain mata or not. You cross that bridge when you come to it. You cross that bridge when you come to it. But follow one teaching. Follow one teaching and go to the depth of it. Follow one teaching and go to the depth of it. Try to understand the depth of it. Automatically, you will grow in your understanding. You will develop your own conviction. So Bhagwan is very honestly and openly saying, this is my firm and highest conviction. This is my mata. It's up to you to follow. And you have to apply your own buddhi. You have to apply your own intellect to study, to analyze, to reflect upon everything Bhagwan is saying out here. Go to the depth of it. Don't simply follow it because Bhagwan is saying. That's also wrong. Pranipatena prashnena. On the one hand, you must surrender, but at the same time, you must question. So, Bhagwan is saying, this is my firm and highest conviction. Now it's up to you. How do you want to live your life? You cannot give up any activity. What you ought to do is perform activity, your action, in the spirit of service and sacrifice, to the best of your ability, giving up kartritva, attachment, and bhoktritva, craving for the result. So with that thought, we'll conclude today's class. So tomorrow we'll continue our discussion where Bhagwan will beautifully describe what is Sattvic Tyaga, vis-a-vis what is Rajasic and what is Tamasic Tyaga. And from there we will begin our analysis of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas in the variety of avenues. So with that thought, we'll conclude today's session and we'll see you tomorrow once again at 7 a.m. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.